Hiya, my name's Adam Tompkins, back for my second video regarding Liverpool FC. The last one I signed off just before the Kiev final. Disappointing, must say. I'll get to that shortly. Just want to have a few things, housekeeping from my last video. I did say Karius gave away the pen against Roma. He didn't. Obviously it was Klavan handball and a Milner handball. However, as I said, he does come out a bit OTT. We'll get to his other performance shortly. And also, I didn't mention the Man City strikers when I was comparing Firmino to the rest of the Premier League. Obviously, Aguero, on his day, you can't really argue he's one of the best in the world, but he might get 4 in one game and then maybe score 1 in the next 4. He's very inconsistent, which is what I kind of rate players on, consistency. So again, I'd have Firmino over Aguero. Jesus probably will be playing ahead of Firmino for Brazil at the World Cup, but again, I don't think he's quite there yet, personally. Even with Man City scoring 3 or 4 goals, sometimes he's not on the score sheet when he plays the whole game, and has been fighting for that sort of one striker spot with Aguero all season, so he's not quite there yet for me, but for sure he will be one of the best strikers in the world. Give him sort of 2-3 years, he will be up there with the best. Anyway, elephant in the room, Champions League final. Yeah. What can you say about that? Difficult. Started off brilliantly, absolutely all over him for the first half an hour. Ironically, Salah wasn't too involved, but the threat of him limited Marcelo coming forward, which is quite a big part of Real Madrid's game. As soon as Salah went off, personally, I think Ramos knows what he's doing. If you look at the final of last year, he did something very similar to Dani Alves, grabbing his arm, sort of rolling over on his arm. So he knew exactly what he was doing. For me, it's the way people win year after year. Those little things like that, which is a shame because Salah didn't deserve that after the season he'd had. And as we've seen a lot this season, when Liverpool lose one of those front three, it's not the same. And it was an uphill battle from there. The momentum changed, the tide changed. Obviously, we went 1-0 down bizarrely. Karius seems to not be able to see 1 yard ahead of him and throws the ball into Benzema's foot and then tries to appeal that he's kicked it out of his hand. Shocking at that level, inexcusable. I said on my previous video that he'd been good this season in the Champions League but had that mistake in him. I was proven correct. I don't think it would have been any different if Mignolet was in goal. He might not have made that error, but I think he would have been, for the second error of Karius was very Mignolet-esque, when he goes to catch it and just sort of fumbles it in his own net. He's done that a few times. Both of them have done that. Bournemouth last season especially, Karius had a nightmare, cost us the game that day. So, yeah, can't really say much about Bale's goal other than amazing. What an amazing goal. Some people have even blamed Karius for that one, which I think is harsh. I did blame him a bit for the Wanyama strike last season when he kind of palmed it out and was still on the floor when Wanyama struck it, even though it was a beautiful finish. But I can't really blame him for the Bale goal. I mean, positioning, etc. Someone pulls it out of the bag, that's going in for me. So, can't blame him for that one. Mane did well to come back in the game, get us back in the game, with that goal from the corner. Good header from Lovren. He's proven he's good at headers. Mane first to react. So, yeah, I think a couple of setbacks, which was a bit unfair after the season we'd had, was just too much to come back from. If we'd have kept Salah on the pitch and Karius would have had a good day, not a bad day, who knows, but unfortunately wasn't to be. Personally, I think we'll be back there within the next 3-4 years. I think we'll have another final with the way we're going quite easily. I'm just going to do a quick player ratings out of the Liverpool players from the Champions League final. Obviously Karius, we're going to do them out of 10. Up to then he wasn't doing too badly, but 2 inexcusable errors at that high match, so I'm going to give him a 2 out of 10. I think that's even being nice. So, moving on from him, left back Robertson was brilliant. That slide tackle on Ronaldo to stop him shooting when he looked certain to score was superb. His positioning was great. His effort was great. So for me, strong 7 for Robertson. Can't really argue with his performance there. Lovren again had one of his better games. Really, looked pretty solid. So I'd say a 7 again. Looked good. Van Dijk, I'd say pretty much organised the entire defence. Obviously, you can't stop what Karius did yourself, so I'd give him a good 8. I think Van Dijk was great, and I think Alex Arnold struggled, as he does tend to in the big games. at 19, I can understand, but not one of his best games. I'd say a 6. He gave the ball away a lot, so I'd give him a 6 for that one. In the midfield, we started with Milner, Henderson, and Wijnaldum. Milner played pretty well. I'd say nothing special, but yeah, he played okay. 7 out of 10 for him. Henderson couldn't really be any higher than a 7 really. I don't think he played particularly brilliantly. He didn't really do a lot wrong, but didn't do the captain performance that Gerrard did in Istanbul, which is kind of my point. You need to grab the game by the scruff of the neck sometime. And Henderson isn't that player that's going to influence the team to victory against all the odds. So 7 for him. Wijnaldum, I thought he played really well, to be honest. Really strong, really powerful, good runs from the back. So I'd give him an 8 out of 10. Front three, obviously Salah. It's difficult to rate him from half an hour, so I won't. I think he played well, not amazingly well, but he was in the game. Up front we had Firmino. Started brilliantly, really well. But again faded as soon as Salah went off with that front three, not being its usual self without one of the pieces. So I'd say a 7 for Firmino. Mane, probably our man of the match, to be honest. I'll give him a good 9 out of 10. Got his goal. He was always a threat, especially when Salah went off in the second half. Mane really was our only real threat to Real Madrid. So yeah, good strong performance from Mane, a 9 out of 10. Ending on 10 goals in the whole season of the Champions League with Salah and Firmino. And the only player, I think, to score in every round this season, if you count the group stage as one round. Ronaldo scored pretty much in every game except for 2, which is kind of better. But yeah, Mane scored in every round, so no arguments there. But yeah, let's get back on to Karius. Obviously, not really a way back, to be honest. If he wants to become backup goalie, I think he might just get away with that. But I think Liverpool fans are going to draw the line now and say we need a new goalie. I think even Klopp, now, I know he bought him himself. It was only for 5 million. It wasn't like we invested a massive amount and have to give him his chance. He's proved that he's okay, but he's not someone to rely on. So seems Mignolet will leave. Karius will hopefully become the number 2. And obviously, I mentioned the 3 goalies in my last video: Oblak, Alisson, and Donnarumma. All actually quite strongly linked to Liverpool at the moment, which is good. Oblak has about 90 million release clause, which is a lot, but with Van Dijk, if you get the player that you're going to be relying on for 10 years, a bit like when Juventus bought Buffon back in the day, I think it was about 34 million for a goalie. Back then was a lot, but proven to be the best goalkeeper of his generation. So, looked like a good idea in the end. Alisson has been linked, but obviously Salah tax. I'll quickly explain. Obviously, we got a really good deal on Salah, so Roma believe if we did buy another player from them, they would need to make some of that money back that they lost on Salah. So a bit harsh, as it's a completely separate transfer, but I think they're feel a bit stung that they let Salah go so cheaply, and he's turned out to be so amazing. So Alisson probably going to cost around the same amount as Oblak, so Oblak would be my choice there. Donnarumma is the 3rd. He's a good goalie. He's not as good as the other 2. He's a lot younger. He'll be about half the price, so yeah, I'll be happy with all 3. One player we've been linked with is Jack Butland, but splits opinion, but for me he's not the level Liverpool need. Quite clearly, you can't blame him entirely for the season Stoke have had, but if he was of any decent quality, Stoke wouldn't have been relegated, would they? So Jack Butland is not even England number 1, so for me, one of those 3 I've mentioned before would be ideal. A bit of good news. It's taken me a little while to post this video just from getting over the pain of the Champions League, but a little bit of a silver lining. We've signed Fabinho, which was kind of out of the blue, which was brilliant. Usually these rumour mills go along linked for weeks and then finally they happen, but yeah, first I heard of Fabinho. I think we signed him about an hour later, so really happy with Fabinho. Brilliant midfielder for Monaco. He reminds me a bit of Patrick Vieira. He's quite sort of tall, strong, sort of lanky, but he gets himself about. Long legs for tackles. Really good engine on him as well. Him and Keita in midfield next season is looking tasty. Obviously, we'd probably have Chamberlain just in front, ideally. Obviously, Fekir has been linked again. Looks like he's going to be dragging on through and after the World Cup for that transfer, which is a shame. It could go either way. He could become really, really good. He could have a great tournament and the price could double, or he could have a poor game, a poor tournament, and his price could fall. But I would like to see Liverpool try and wrap that one up before the World Cup begins. Got about 2 weeks to get that one done. Other people, I've been looking on Sky Bet, which have specials on player transfers. A few people have been mentioned. One or two, yes. One or two, I'm not too sure where they've come from. Pulisic, obviously attacking midfielder, USA international from Dortmund, similar to Fekir. I've not seen a lot of him. I know he's a good wonder kid, but I don't think he's quite ready yet. I think a couple of years for him. So Fekir over him for now. Maddison, I think he plays for Norwich. I'm not too sure why he's the favourite to go to Liverpool. I can't see him getting anywhere near our first team. I think he would be best off either staying at Norwich or moving to one of the newly promoted teams, someone like that, to prove his worth in the Premier League before he has that big move to a top 6 team, which I think we've seen a lot. People like Rodwell and Sinclair have gone to sort of Man City and sort of drifted out of the game altogether by not playing regularly, so that would not be a good move for me. A couple of centre-back options, excuse me. Lascelles and Tarkowski have been linked with Liverpool. Again, both good defenders in their own right, but not Liverpool level. So, sort of, I would think just below the top 6 for them is where they kind of belong at the moment. Lanzini is another one, favourite to join Liverpool if anyone. Again, not the quality we're looking for whatsoever. He's not even West Ham's best player, so not sure where that one's come from. Ruben Neves from Wolves. Obviously, he smashed it in the Championship, but it was the Championship, so again, not ready for a move yet. Give him a season for Wolves in the Prem, see what he does, and maybe next summer, if he keeps on going, could be an option. Dembele, I mentioned him in my last video from Barcelona. Again, looks like Barcelona have been looking to sell him if they're getting Griezmann. The price does seem to be dropping every day. 70-80 million for me is still a lot for an unproven player. I don't think he's in that top world-class bracket. I don't even know if he's in the one below it, to be honest with you. I would definitely take him, but I don't think any more than the price that we're looking at for Kier would be reasonable. So 60 mil or lower, yep. Anything above, overpriced for me. Lamar is another one. We made a bid, I think, on the last day of this summer transfer window last year. Didn't go through. I think Arsenal then had one accepted as well, but the player didn't want the move. So, yeah, I'll happily have Lamar. I mentioned Zaha as well. Someone like that to come into the wings would be great. I did mention about the centre-backs as well. Obviously, looking at the 11 for next season. Obviously, goalkeeper, we have to have a new one. Robertson, left back, we will need backup as well, or rotation. Right back, we've got Klein and Arnold. Centre back, I mentioned obviously Van Dijk and i.e. another Alderweireld, I think is the one we mentioned before, with Matip and Gomez as backup. But been looking at a few other centre backs that may be available to Liverpool. A little bit of housekeeping. I did forget to mention Clavan in my last transfer video. Quite clearly, he's not good enough for Liverpool. I doubt we'll get any money for him, so I think sort of a year in the reserves or released at the end of his contract, maybe 1 million from a German team we might get. He should be on his way. Centre-back options though, Jimenez, Uruguayan international from Atletico Madrid, looks really good. He's really young. Happily have him in the team, and that would be a long-term fix alongside Van Dijk. That'd be really strong. Probably be available for sort of 40-50 mil, possibly more, but I think it would be worth it for someone that's, I think he's 23 area, so someone that would be, you know, having his best years at Liverpool would be good. Another one, Koulibaly from Napoli, has been linked with Chelsea, obviously due to the manager Sarri joining Chelsea from Napoli. Strong rumours anyway, but he would be a good one if that wasn't to materialise. Again, probably in the same bracket price as Jimenez, but another good. I think he's about 26, so again, a long-term fix. A couple more, Manolas from Roma, obviously can't really raid the entire Roma squad. A bit like Southampton, they'll keep putting the price up than the next person we go for, but he's looked really good in the Champions League this season. Happily have him. Tar from Bayer Leverkusen, young German defender. He looks a bit like a younger version of Matip, quite strong but unproven. Would be a risk, but yeah, I would think he would be a good player to bring in if we were to get rid of the likes of Lovren or Matip as well. David Luiz was another one I thought similar to Alderweireld, lost his place in a top 6 Premier League team. For me, he's a brilliant defender. I'm not too sure why he gets so much sort of grief from everybody. He's a fantastic player. He would be brilliant for Liverpool. I'd happily take him in a heartbeat, and I think 30 mil would do the job. He is 30 years old, so a couple of years maybe in the team, but again would be good. Last one I was going to mention was Marquinhos from PSG. Obviously, it would be difficult to get him away from there, but with the financial fair play hanging over PSG at the moment, they may need to move on players if they wanting to keep Neymar and Mbappe. They may need to move some people on to balance the book. So that was another good option for me. So yeah, other than that, just again mentioned from my last video that the depth is not there at the moment. So we've had a good start to the transfer window. Obviously, Keita coming in, Fabinho coming in, so our midfield is looking strong. Milner's probably got a year left. Henderson, I hope, would become back up. As I say, Lallana, he did come on in the Champions League final, as did Emre Can. I wouldn't give Can a rating purely because he's been on for 5 minutes or so. Lallana came on and it's difficult. He proved what I said, is he's not at that level anymore. It is a bit harsh as it's his first game back in the biggest stage of all, but he was not on the pace at all. He was on for about an hour and did not impact the game whatsoever. So again, yeah, depth is needed. I know Icardi's been linked to Chelsea recently again through the Napoli manager possibly joining, but that would be one I would go for. Other than that, people that I've mentioned in my other video would be good to come in. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today's video. Obviously, the World Cup just around the corner. I'll be keeping an eye on Liverpool players at the World Cup, and I'll be posting the video again probably during the World Cup, unless we have a few more transfers in that time to talk about, just to sort of keep an eye on our boys over in Russia. But yeah, thanks again for listening. It's my second video. I look forward to posting the third. Thank you. Cheers.